Chosen one, listen carefully, because this message is not designed for the casual listener. It is not entertainment, and it is not a debate. It is a spiritual notice, delivered with urgency, for those who have been walking with God and yet have quietly wondered why life has felt heavier instead of easier. If you have been faithful, prayed sincerely, and tried to do what is right, but still found yourself losing people, losing momentum, losing stability, or losing the sense of certainty you once had, then you are not imagining it. Something is shifting. And the fact that you are here, paying attention, seeking clarity, and still reaching toward God, may be the very confirmation your spirit has been asking for. There is a season that visits many who are called, refined, and positioned for a greater assignment, a season where you will lose everything except God. That sentence can sound frightening at first, because loss triggers the human instinct to resist. We are trained to protect what we love, to hold tightly to what feels safe, and to interpret endings as failure. But in the divine order, not every ending is a collapse. Some endings are a release. Some losses are a separation. And some separations are not meant to harm you, they are meant to prepare you. This is where your perspective must mature. Being chosen does not mean you are immune to pain. It does not mean your path will be smooth, or that obedience will guarantee comfort. Being chosen means God trusts you with a process that would break someone who is not anchored in Him. It means He is preparing you for purpose with precision, removing what cannot follow you into what He has already designed for you. That removal can feel personal because it is personal. God deals with the heart directly. He does not reshape you from a distance. If lately you have felt misunderstood, unusually restless, or spiritually out of place, consider that this may not be depression, it may be discernment. What once fit no longer fits. Conversations feel shallow. Familiar environments feel draining. Relationships that once felt warm now feel distant. Plans you built carefully are suddenly unstable. And you keep asking yourself, what did I do wrong? The answer may be, nothing. You may simply be outgrowing the version of life that was built for an earlier chapter. This introduction is your reminder, your losses are not proof that God has left you. They may be proof that He is leading you. The question is not whether this season will be uncomfortable, it likely will be. The question is whether you will fight the process or accept it. Resistance multiplies pain. Acceptance creates peace. And peace does not come from controlling outcomes, it comes from trusting the one who controls what you cannot see. Chosen one, what you are experiencing is not random, and it is not a mistake. There is a spiritual principle at work here, one that has governed the lives of those called by God across generations. It is the law of divine separation. This law explains why, before God sends someone into greater purpose, He first begins to remove, reduce, and refine. What looks like loss on the surface is often preparation beneath it. God never builds on clutter. He does not pour new wine into old containers, and He does not assign new responsibility to a soul still weighed down by attachments from a former season. When God prepares the chosen, He simplifies them. And simplification almost always feels like loss. People think being chosen means being protected from pain, but the truth is far more sobering. Being chosen means being trusted with pain. God allows you to walk through experiences that stretch you because He knows you will not abandon Him in the process. This is where many misunderstand God's intentions. They ask, why would God take things away from someone who loves Him? The answer is not cruelty, it is trust. God does not discipline strangers, He trains sons and daughters. When He begins to strip, it is not to punish you, but to lighten you. Heavy attachments slow obedience. Heavy emotions distort hearing. Heavy dependence on people, systems, or comfort creates hesitation when God gives instruction. So, like a careful surgeon, God removes what cannot go with you. The stripping process rarely begins loudly. It often starts subtly. Small disappointments. A quiet sense that something is off. A restlessness you cannot explain. Over time, it intensifies. Relationships begin to feel misaligned. Places that once energized you now drain you. Conversations that once mattered now feel empty. What you are experiencing is not collapse, it is clarity awakening. Your discernment is sharpening, and discernment always creates separation. Separation always comes before elevation. This is not a theory, it is a pattern. Before David wore a crown, he lived in caves. Before Moses led a nation, he lived in isolation. Before Jesus began his public ministry, he was led into solitude. God isolates before He authorizes. Not because isolation is the goal, but because purity of purpose is required for what comes next. Authority without discipline destroys. Influence without humility corrupts. So God cleans you first. He empties you first. Obedience does not exempt the chosen from loss, it accelerates transformation. The law of divine separation works by removing external support so that internal strength can develop. When people leave, you learn to stand with God alone. When validation disappears, you learn your worth is not negotiated by applause. When comfort is stripped away, faith either deepens or collapses. God already knows which one you will choose. This season feels personal because it is personal. God is asking a direct question of your heart: can I be enough for you when everything else is gone? Until that question is answered honestly, the separation continues. Not to break you, but to free you. In the journey of the chosen one, one of the most challenging and misunderstood stages is what is referred to as the law of divine separation. This process is not a punishment but rather a crucial aspect of spiritual growth and preparation. It is during these times that many feel as though they are being stripped of everything that once felt familiar and comforting: relationships, resources, and even their sense of identity. However, what might seem like loss is actually God's way of aligning you with your divine purpose. The law of divine separation operates on the principle that God cannot send His chosen ones into their purpose while they are still weighed down by things, people, or habits that belong to their old selves. Imagine a container full of clutter, unable to hold anything new until the clutter is removed. This is how God works. He simplifies your life, not to punish you, but to prepare you for the mission ahead. You see, God does not pour new wine into old wineskins, nor does He build upon an unstable foundation. He first removes the distractions and attachments that would hinder your growth. During this time, it often feels like God is removing everything. Relationships that once felt close now seem distant or unfulfilling, and you might question why these connections are fading. You may wonder if you've done something wrong or if you've lost God's favor. But the truth is, God is removing what cannot go with you to the next stage of your journey. Those people, places, and things that once seemed important were only meant for a season. Their purpose was to teach you lessons, but now, in order for you to grow and mature, God must take them away. This process can be painful because the separation feels personal. It's not just external, it digs deep into the core of your being. It tests your reliance on others and forces you to turn inward, seeking fulfillment and direction from God alone. However, this solitude is not abandonment. It is a divine act of refinement. God is preparing you for greater responsibility and influence, and in order to carry that weight, you must first be emptied of everything that might cause you to stumble. Separation, in this sense, is not just about losing people or things, it's about gaining clarity. It's about shedding the unnecessary layers that have built up over time, so you can walk more freely in your divine purpose. This is where true spiritual discernment begins. You start to learn what truly aligns with your soul and what distracts you from your mission. The things you thought you needed for comfort or security are revealed for what they truly are, temporary distractions that can never provide lasting fulfillment. In this section of the journey, the chosen one must learn to stand firm in solitude. The absence of external support will push you to build internal strength. You will learn that your worth doesn't come from the approval or validation of others, but from God alone. The absence of applause will teach you to find satisfaction in knowing that you are aligned with His purpose, even when no one else can see or understand it. Separation becomes a necessary step to prepare you for the greater things God has in store, and in the end, it is this very process that will set you free to fulfill your calling with clarity and conviction. The process of being stripped is often one of the most difficult aspects of the chosen journey. It is during these times that many question their purpose, their faith, and even their relationship with God. When everything feels like it's being taken away, people, possessions, opportunities, it's easy to feel abandoned or punished. However, the truth is that God strips the chosen not to harm them but to prepare them for what is to come. This stripping is an essential part of the process, and it is designed to help you become who you are meant to be. At the core of the stripping process is the necessity of spiritual purification. God cannot pour new blessings or higher callings into your life until He first empties you of things that could cloud your vision or hinder your progress. Just as a gardener prunes a tree to ensure it bears more fruit, God prunes your life to ensure you are aligned with your true purpose. This is not just about physical loss, it is about a deep inner transformation that requires you to release your attachments to the past. It is important to understand that the process of stripping does not mean you are being punished or rejected by God. On the contrary, it's because God loves you so deeply that He is allowing you to experience this season. When God begins to take things away, it's not to break you, but to refine you. He wants to prepare you for greater things ahead, things that require a strong and pure spirit. In this season, God is teaching you how to rely solely on Him, not on external circumstances or people for your sense of security or purpose. While the stripping process can feel isolating and painful, it is in these moments of solitude that your faith will deepen. You will begin to recognize that God is always present, even when you cannot see His hand moving. The silence, the loneliness, and the uncertainty are not signs of His absence, rather, they are opportunities for you to draw closer to Him and trust His timing. Trusting the process means accepting that God is orchestrating everything in your life, even when it doesn't make sense. The key is to stop fighting the process and start flowing with it. God will strip away the things that are no longer serving your higher purpose, and in the process, you will experience a greater sense of clarity. You may have once relied on people, titles, or material possessions to define your worth, but as they fade away, you will begin to see that your true worth comes from your relationship with God. You will learn to trust Him in ways you never have before, and this trust will be the foundation for the blessings He is preparing for you. The stripping process also requires you to let go of fear and embrace surrender. Resistance to the process only prolongs the pain, while acceptance brings peace. When you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What are you teaching me?" you will find that the weight begins to lift. God is not trying to break you down, He is preparing you to carry more, to carry the weight of your destiny. It is in this place of surrender that true spiritual growth occurs, and the more you allow yourself to be refined, the stronger and more resilient you will become. In the end, the stripping process is an essential part of becoming who God has destined you to be. While it may be uncomfortable, it is a necessary step toward growth and transformation. Trusting the process, even when it feels like you are losing everything, will ultimately lead you to a place of spiritual maturity, peace, and fulfillment. As you release your attachments and align with God's will, you will find that what you have gained through this process far outweighs what you have lost. The purpose of separation, as part of the journey for the chosen ones, is often misunderstood. Many believe that isolation and the sense of being cut off from the world are signs of abandonment or divine punishment. However, in truth, separation is a powerful tool used by God to prepare His chosen ones for their calling. It is not a punishment but an essential step in refining your spirit, sharpening your discernment, and aligning you with your divine purpose. Separation always precedes elevation. Before you are entrusted with greater responsibility, authority, or influence, God first ensures that you are spiritually, emotionally, and mentally prepared to handle the weight of it. Think about some of the greatest figures in the Bible. David was anointed to be king, but he spent years in the wilderness and caves before he sat on the throne. Moses had to go through isolation in the desert before leading a nation. Even Jesus spent time in solitude in the wilderness before beginning his ministry. This pattern is not coincidence, it is preparation. God allows separation because He is protecting you from the distractions, influences, and attachments that could derail your journey. In this season of isolation, you begin to see things clearly. You are no longer clouded by external noise or the opinions of others. The people who were once a part of your life now seem distant or even irrelevant, not because you have done anything wrong, but because God is removing what no longer aligns with your purpose. What separation reveals is often a painful but necessary truth. You begin to see who truly cares for you, not for what you can do for them or what they can gain from you. Relationships that once seemed close may start to feel strained, and you might find yourself questioning why things are changing. It can be a hard pill to swallow, but this is a revelation. God is allowing you to see who and what is genuine. Through the pain of separation, you discover who really loves you for who you are and not for your usefulness or proximity to success. Moreover, separation reveals your own heart and motives. It forces you to confront areas where you may have been overly dependent on others for validation or approval. Without these distractions, you begin to see where your identity was wrapped up in external sources and learn to find your worth in God alone. You will discover that your true value comes not from the people around you or the roles you play, but from your identity as a beloved child of God. This process of revelation can be painful, but it is crucial for your spiritual growth. It teaches you the importance of emotional boundaries, discernment, and wisdom. You will start to recognize what drains your energy, what is in alignment with your spirit, and what needs to be let go. This wisdom can only be gained in the silence and solitude that God provides during seasons of separation. You will no longer be swayed by the opinions of others or by the pull of unhealthy relationships. Instead, you will develop a stronger sense of self and a deeper understanding of God's purpose for your life. Ultimately, separation is not about punishment, but about protection and preparation. God is positioning you for greater things, but before you can walk into those things, He must ensure that you are spiritually grounded and ready to handle them. Through separation, God is making room for you to grow, refine your character, and strengthen your relationship with Him. It is in the quiet moments of solitude, free from distractions, that God will speak most clearly to you. And in those moments, you will begin to understand that the separation was never a loss, it was a divine setup for something greater. As you embrace the process of separation, trust that God is guiding you through it. You are not alone, even in the loneliness. God is using this time to sharpen you, to strengthen your resolve, and to prepare you for the calling He has placed on your life. Embrace the season of separation, knowing that it is leading you to your next level of purpose and destiny. The stripping and separation that the chosen ones experience are not just about external losses, they are deeply tied to the development of spiritual independence and divine discipline. These processes, though challenging and uncomfortable, serve as powerful tools for strengthening your relationship with God and preparing you for the responsibilities that lie ahead. During times of isolation, the most significant transformation occurs within. It is a time when God teaches you to rely on Him alone, to deepen your faith, and to stand firm in your identity, irrespective of external circumstances. One of the key aspects of this journey is the cultivation of spiritual independence. God does not want His chosen ones to rely on people, material comforts, or the validation of the world. Instead, He calls you to place your trust fully in Him. This can be a difficult lesson, especially when we are accustomed to seeking external validation or finding security in things like relationships, status, or wealth. However, the process of divine stripping forces you to confront your dependence on these temporary sources and turn your focus entirely to God. Spiritual independence does not mean you turn away from people or become isolated in a negative sense. It means learning to stand on your own 2 feet spiritually, relying on God's wisdom, guidance, and provision rather than on the approval or support of others. As God removes external support during the stripping process, you are learning to stand alone with Him. This is a time when your relationship with God becomes more personal and intimate. You no longer rely on the comfort of others to affirm your identity or calling. Instead, you look to God alone for guidance, validation, and strength. The absence of external support also brings you face to face with your own inner strength and resilience. You begin to realize that you have all you need in God. This spiritual independence is what enables you to walk in your divine purpose without being swayed by others' opinions or the shifting sands of external circumstances. When you know who you are in Christ and trust in His faithfulness, you are no longer moved by the ups and downs of life. Your peace and stability come from the unshakable foundation of God's love and truth. Furthermore, divine discipline is essential to this process. Just as a loving parent disciplines a child to help them grow into maturity, God disciplines His chosen ones to shape them into the people they were always meant to be. This discipline is not meant to punish but to refine, strengthen, and mature your character. God's discipline is always purposeful. He allows you to go through difficult seasons so that you can develop the qualities necessary to handle the blessings, responsibility, and influence He is preparing for you. Discipline from God often comes in the form of challenges and trials that test your patience, faith, and obedience. You may find yourself facing situations that feel unfair, lonely, or confusing. But these experiences are not meant to break you. They are meant to strengthen your resolve and purify your heart. The more you endure these tests with faith and obedience, the more you become spiritually refined. In time, you will see that these seasons of discipline are actually preparing you for greater things, teaching you to rely on God's strength rather than your own, and helping you grow in wisdom and understanding. The stripping process, while difficult, teaches you how to live a life of integrity, obedience, and emotional mastery. It helps you to stop seeking comfort in people and external circumstances and instead learn to find peace in God alone. This spiritual independence allows you to be free from the need to please others or to seek approval from the world. You no longer need to chase after recognition, validation, or success. You are content with knowing that your worth is secure in God. In this season, you will learn that true freedom comes from dependence on God, not independence from Him. It's a paradox that can only be understood through experience. As you rely on God more fully, you become spiritually stronger, more resilient, and more capable of fulfilling your divine calling. This freedom and strength come from the deep work God is doing in your heart during these times of stripping and separation. What may feel like loss and pain now will eventually lead to a sense of spiritual independence and maturity that will serve you well in the future. The final step in the journey of the chosen one is often marked by a period of clarity and spiritual alignment. This phase comes after you have undergone the painful but necessary processes of stripping, separation, and divine discipline. It is in this stage that you begin to see the fruits of your trials and struggles, when everything starts to come into focus, and you can finally understand why things had to unfold the way they did. Clarity brings peace, and peace leads to a deeper alignment with God's purpose for your life. As you move through the seasons of loss, confusion, and isolation, the noise of the world begins to fade away. What once seemed like a loss is now understood as a divine realignment. The distractions that once kept you focused on the wrong things are no longer in your life, and this absence creates space for you to hear God's voice more clearly. The clarity that follows this process is not just intellectual but spiritual. You begin to discern more easily what is aligned with your calling and what is not. The false illusions about your identity, purpose, and relationships fall away, and you see yourself and the world around you through a more truthful lens. This newfound clarity is not just about understanding the past but also about embracing the future. As God has stripped away what cannot go with you, He now makes room for something greater. This is a time of spiritual elevation, where you are aligned with your true purpose and destiny. You begin to understand why certain relationships had to end, why certain opportunities didn't come to fruition, and why some doors had to be closed. It's in this alignment that you start to realize that God was guiding you all along, even when it seemed like things were falling apart. Spiritual alignment means walking in sync with God's will, trusting that He is leading you toward something greater than what you could have imagined for yourself. When you are aligned with God, your actions, thoughts, and decisions flow naturally in the direction of His will. This is the reward of your struggles, when your spirit is in harmony with the divine plan, and your life begins to reflect that alignment. You stop striving, overthinking, or forcing things to happen. Instead, you learn to rest in God's timing and flow with His direction. This alignment is also a form of inner peace. In the midst of challenges, confusion, or delay, you begin to experience a peace that surpasses understanding. You stop measuring your life by external standards, by the timelines, the expectations, or the success markers set by society or even your own previous goals. Instead, you rest in the certainty that God's plan is unfolding exactly as it should, even if you don't always see it. The moment you accept that God's timing is perfect, your anxiety diminishes, and you begin to trust in His sovereignty over every aspect of your life. Moreover, as you come into alignment, you will begin to notice a shift in your relationships and interactions with others. No longer are you seeking external validation or approval. Instead, you are confident in your own identity, and that confidence draws the right people into your life, those who resonate with your spirit and your purpose. You will find that the people who remain in your life after this period of separation are those who genuinely support you, understand your calling, and respect your boundaries. These relationships will be deeper, more meaningful, and aligned with your mission. The clarity that comes with alignment also gives you a renewed sense of purpose. You will know exactly what God has called you to do, and you will feel equipped and ready to step into that purpose with boldness. In the end, the reward of clarity and spiritual alignment is not just about understanding what has happened in the past, it's about being able to move forward with purpose, peace, and a renewed sense of direction. This alignment is where your faith and obedience meet your divine destiny, and it is where you begin to step into the fullness of who you were always meant to be. Embrace this phase, knowing that all that you have gone through has been leading you to this moment, where you are aligned with God's purpose and walking in the clarity of His plan.